Hello, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. Today we've got reviews. That's all I got for you today is reviews because two movies came out and I went and saw them both. Last week, my intro banner, I said the arrival of award season, and loud and clear, the Smashing Machine, and Anemone, and we're 100% Oscar bait fodder. The week before, it was One Battle After Another, which best movie of the year, has to be the Oscar Best Picture frontrunner. This week, we're off of the train of movies that are in it for Oscars. There's just that's not happening this time, and we're starting with Tron Ares. Now, I will say that I say it's not really Oscars bait, but let me tell you, I'm just going to start right off piping hot. I will be so frigging livid if Trent Reznor 9 Inch Nails does not get nominated for best score on this one. Trent Reznor has been nominated multiple times, won multiple times. He is one of the two best working score composers that we have right now. The other one being Johnny Greenwood, member of Radiohead, who actually did One Battle After Another, which also had a friggin' ridiculously amazing score. And Tron Ares, man. Look, all right, history of Tron. I am, young, and the first Tron is coming out. I'm living in Pennsylvania, and I go see Tron with my cousins at a drive-in theater. All right, so that's the setup. Drive-in theater, Erie, Pennsylvania. Cousins in a car, just unbelievable. It was I believe it was the first time that computer animation was used in films. No idea what was going on. Didn't matter. There were dudes driving around in light cycles and blowing each other up, and I was in. And for 20-ish, many years, decades before we get Tron Legacy, which comes out, I think it's about 10 years now. 10 years ago now. And I get to take my son to go see Tron Legacy. And he, I loved Tron Legacy. And the interesting thing that Tron Legacy does is it's like, okay, we're going to be visually amazing. We're going to, use the color palette, which is just blue, that you remember from the first film. But we're also going to add just an absolute banging soundtrack that is, by film nerds today, just still like considered one of the most underappreciated film scores of all time, written by Daft Punk. And it's ridiculous. Like, every once in a while in my movie nerd groups, like I would say maybe once every 6 months or so, somebody will just be like, man, I'm just sitting in my car and like I have it on super random, and a banger from Tron Legacy just popped up off of my Spotify, and I had to go and listen to the whole soundtrack. I mean, that's just kind of what the legacy of Tron Legacy was. And it was just a super fun movie, and it brought Jeff Bridges back into the fold. And there, instantly the movie sets up for one. This movie sets up for a sequel, and two, it not only sets up for a sequel, but it like the sequel feels like it's getting fast tracked, except that the movie didn't do that great. There are people who love it, and they're passionate about it, but in general, the movie did okay, like, but not enough to be like, oh, we have to make a sequel on this. And so it just sits around, and then finally, what ends up happening is Jared Leto gets attached. He chips in on character development and some other fun things like that. and he doesn't get a writing credit, but there's just a lot of story about how he he kind of met with the writers and explained what where he saw the characters going, um and with Jared Leto attached, it gets greenlit. And we trade in the first most important thing about this movie is we trade in the blue color palette for a red color palette. Okay, blue is gone, just gone out the window. We're in red world, and in anybody who remembers the original movie, red is bad. Red is the bad guys, blue good guys, red bad guys. Boo red. And so Tron Ares is boo red, and in the setup of the movie, we are introduced to this corporation, Dillinger Technologies or something like that. But Dillinger is the main bad guy from the original Tron movie. Like, so they're, Bruce Boxleiter and Jeff Bridges play, two computer programmers for this corporation called Encom, and their bad evil CEO who stole Jeff Bridges' design for computer games and presented them as his own, is played by a dude named Dillinger. So apparently, he split off from Encom and created his own company, even though in Tron Legacy, there was a character like Dillinger's son makes a very brief appearance early in the movie. But, we ignore that. And we're like, no, actually, the Dillinger family has their own company. And so now the Dillinger family has found a way to reconstitute people from the digital sphere into the real world. And obviously, and with the idea of it being AI, their artificial intelligence, and he is presenting it as a military achievement. And in Encom, now being run by a benevolent young woman who her and her sister take over, but we find out that her sister, it's the weak part of the movie. Her sister has passed away from cancer, and they're in a race to not just reconstitute people from the digital space, but make their reconstitution permanent. Because what we find out, and what Dillinger is hiding from his investors, is that they can only come into our world for 29 minutes and then they vaporize again and are sent back into the digital space. First and foremost, the entire conceit of the first movie and the second movie brings that forward is the idea of games, and you're brought into the game grid, and like you are playing these games, and they are deadly games. All right. Games is barely mentioned in this. We find out that the CEO, the woman from Encom, she got there because while her sister was sort of like doing developmental and experimental theory work, she was the developer of the best new games for Encom, and so that's kind of how they rose up hand in hand. But now she's working on her own. She's abandoned her background as a game developer and is just trying to figure out the permanence. And she believes that it's hidden in the code of the Flynn, the Jeff Bridges character. And that her sister may have figured it out as well. So first of all, the visuals, even though it's all red rather than all blue, we do get to visit a little bit of the blue word. Because remember, the Encom, their grid is blue. And so we do get to see a little bit of the Encom grid. But the Dillinger grid is red. Ares, War, Mars. It's obvious. Like it's just so obvious that that's fine and it works. The visuals are beautiful. I mean, they just, there are a lot of valid complaints about digital effects. Okay. you can't make those complaints about Tron. And if you're going to make a Tron movie, you damn well better make your digital visual effects just absolutely, snap off the screen. And they achieve that. A lot of the visual effects of bringing the digital folks into the real space, it feels real. It feels practical. In some instances, and I know that sounds insane, but it's true. They just do a really good job of the light cycles in the real space. Seeing the barrier trails that light cycles leave, and later in Tron Legacy, when we see the flying ships leave those same trails that are so deadly, seeing those in the real world it's really cool, really fascinating. So visually stunning. I already mentioned the soundtrack is just perfect. It is abso-fucking-lutely perfect. It really is. If you're not going to be able to get Daft Punk to come out of retirement and do another soundtrack, the only other person you could use is Trent Reznor, and that Trent Reznor wrote the soundtrack under the Nine Inch Nails umbrella, is, rather than as Trent Reznor. It's chef's kiss, beautiful, amazing. He takes themes and he takes elements from both prior soundtracks, lifts them up and drops them into Nine Inch Nails, and it's just amazing. It's just absolute candy for the ears. And like it was my son's birthday last month, and what he wanted to do was go around to record stores, and one of the things I saw was the Nine Inch Nails Tron Ares record, and I was like, I should just get this now, but I didn't, and I regret it. It's so good. The soundtrack is so fucking good. Now, story. All right, so Tron Legacy, I'll just, the story is kind of, all right, whatever. Flynn's kid gets brought into the grid by a corrupted program that Jeff Bridges had created to sort of, help him manage the grid, and takes his orders and goes crazy. And it's fine, and it works, and it's good, and I like it. And if somebody wants to say, oh, the plot is lame, I'll let them have that, but I ate it up and I loved it. This story is stripped down even more basic. It's just Jared Leto wants to be a real boy, and there are two Geppettos who are trying to make that happen for him, and one is good and one is bad, and who's gonna win? And it's really, really fucking simple. And if you're going to take that and be like, well, fuck this movie for being so simple, that is 100% you're right, but you're sucking the fun out of life, and the fun that is really inherent and obvious in this movie, and you're sucking it out and shitting it all over the floor. If you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm not necessarily here for super deep, and I'm going to forgive Jared Leto being, pretending like what's going on is super deep, but I get to see Jeff Bridges again for 5 minutes, and I get to see these amazing visuals, and the action is propulsive and engaging enough that I'm on board. You're winning at life. And that's really what I want to communicate is, people, go see Tron Ares in theaters, because it has to be seen on a big screen, and win at life like me. Here at Real Talk, I do tacos instead of stars. And if we feel like something deserves a little bit extra, instead of doing half a taco, we'll add guac. Why? Because nobody eats half a fucking taco. Full disclosure, I am completely unbiased and unfair in my ranking of this movie. It is not a 4 taco plus guac movie, but guess what? I'm giving it 4 tacos plus guac because that's how much I loved it. It just worked for me on every level. even the story was like, okay, cool. One of the problems I have with movies a lot is that, oh my God, it got so bogged down in the story and all the different things going on that it just tripped over itself constantly, and you end up with a third act that leaves everything open and just has to feel like hastily close off, even though we're 2 hours and 15 minutes into the movie. I hate, like, I preach all the time. Just figure out what you're about and be about that. That's what Tron Ares does. It figures out what it wants to be about, and it is about that. And so bravo to you, Tron Ares, for accomplishing for listening to me and just being about a thing. Next movie I'm doing is Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst in Roofman. All right. Roofman is directed by a guy who nobody has ever heard of. He's best known probably as a writer for The Place Beyond the Pines, which is just a really stupid, ridiculously depressing movie, and Blue Valentine, which is again just a ridiculously stupid, depressing movie, and not stupid in a bad way, but just it's so depressing. His prior writing, primary big writing movies are those. He also wrote The Sound of Metal, which guess what, super depressing. And so you might come into this and look at that and say, oh well, okay, so Roofman's depressed. You know what, Roofman kind of feels like what happens when somebody who writes The Place Beyond the Pines and Blue Valentine finds Jesus, where some of the material is very serious, but there's a good human story within it. Now, okay, so the Roofman is actually based on a true story. Channing Tatum plays a veteran who has a wife and 2 kids, or 3 kids, sorry, twin sons and a little girl. It was older than the twins are infants. The little girl is like 8, 7, 6, 6. She's 6 at the start of the movie, and isn't able to provide for them. And he feels really bad about the fact that he's just not able to provide for them. And so, but he figures out that he's actually really good at robbing McDonald's, and he gets so good at it that that his MO becomes known, and he gets a moniker of Roofman. He goes in through the roof, is there waiting for the morning crew when they arrive at a McDonald's, and also it's Burger King and Blockbuster, like different stores where there's a morning crew that comes in on a Monday, and there's a lot of money in the safe. So that's what he does. And he's able to provide a great life for his family, but he gets caught. He gets recognized by one of the employees and is turned in. Okay, so that's where we are. That first act is he's doing bad. He's robbing, but he's super nice while he's robbing. Like, people like him while he's robbing, but also he's doing this bad thing that he knows he shouldn't be doing. He ends up in prison, and then he explains how, all right, this is how I escaped from prison. End of Act 1. I have escaped from prison. He makes his way into, during his escape, he makes his way into a Toys R Us where he starts hiding out. The Toys R Us is managed by Peter Dinklage, and Kirsten Dunst is one of the employees. He starts falling for Kirsten Dunst, who happens to be a member of a church. They're running a toy drive around Christmas time. Peter Dinklage is the big bad manager for Toys R Us. Says, bah humbug, I'm not donating to your toy drive. So Channing Tatum steals a bunch of toys from the Toys R Us and goes donates them, and then gets sucked into the church and starts going to the church regularly, even though he's supposed to be hiding out, until his friend, played by Lakeith Stanfield, God bless this movie for having complete Lakeith Stanfield, can get him a fake ID. And that is postponed a bit when Lakeith Stanfield ends up like going away for 3 months to on a contractor like basically a mercenary role in the Middle East, because he's friends with Channing Tatum through their military experience. Okay. That's a lot, right? The movie's really simple, though. I mean, it literally is just Channing Tatum falling in love with Kirsten Dunst and finding the thing that he wants and has always wanted, which is a family, because Kirsten Dunst is divorced and has 2 kids of her own, a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so it's Channing Tatum trying to ingratiate himself into that family and fucking Kirsten Dunst on their first date. I mean, it's that straightforward, and everybody's really good in it, and absolutely nothing about what happens is like shocking or surprising. But you buy in. Like, I bought in on the characters. I was 100% invested in Roofman. He's the anti-hero. He shouldn't be robbing, but this is what he needed to do for his family. And now he shouldn't have escaped, and now stealing from Toys R Us in order to continue to live, but also certainly shouldn't be stealing from Toys R Us in order to live a fake life. He should just be hiding out. But hey, he definitely shouldn't be banging Kirsten Dunst. A woman who goes to church on the first date, but that's what they decide to do, and good for them. Banging on the first date, underrated. Anyway, and then during the end credits, we meet all the people who are in the movie. Not all the people, but most of the people who are in the movie, we get a chance to meet. We find out that he's going to be in prison for another, until without parole until 2036. Yada yada yada. And I mean, it goes exactly how you think it goes. It's you do buy into the characters, so it's compelling. You feel bad, but then at the end of it, you're like, but why do I feel bad for this guy who like really clearly should be doing that? But then you're like, fuck capitalism, and then you're like, like it's tough. It's all over the place. It's a very very simple movie with a very simple premise, and therefore I'm giving it a very simple 3 tacos. It's worth seeing. I would absolutely see it again. I will not own the Blu-ray, but if somebody said to me, hey, let's watch this movie, I really liked your review of it, it sounds exactly the kind of thing that I want to watch today, I'd be like, yeah, cool, let's watch that movie. And I liked it, and I did like it. And that's where we land. All right. Next week, I am not going to get a chance to go see movies. However, I have a backlog of streaming movies that I've been saving specifically for next week. So hopefully I will have 3, maybe I will try to get to 4 direct to streamer movies done in the next week. Fingers crossed. This has been Real to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. These were reviews of Tron Ares and Roofman. Hey, go out, see movies. That's all I gotta say.